All right, now below this, we're going to be typing actual code that will run our game. So is anybody confused up to this point? If you guys have questions, I think you guys can just type them into the chat and someone can just tell me if there's a question. I can't really see the actual screen. Okay, I think we're good. If anybody has a question, just type it in and I can just try my best to answer it. All right, so now what we're going to do is we need the computer to run code until the person guesses the number correctly. So that sounds a lot like a Boolean statement, right? So run is equal to true if they haven't guessed the number correctly. So how would we code that? So first, I'm just gonna code all of the text without the while loop, and then we'll integrate the while loop in order for it to stop running after a certain point. So what we're gonna do first is ask the user to please guess a number. Perfect. And now what we're asking for is the user to type something into the actual input screen. So what that requires is one of the scanners. So this is where numScan comes into play. So we're just gonna set another variable, int guess. So now we're setting a variable because what the user is gonna put in is gonna be a single digit, which is an integer, and we set it as guess. But again, instead of just typing a number such as 5, which would just have user guesses 5 all the time, we're going to use the numScan function. Next, int. And this is what it's going to look like. So what this is saying is that numScan is going to look for someone to input a number, and that's going to be the integer that guess is going to be set to. Okay, and now we decided that if the user's guess is less than the answer, we're gonna tell them to guess higher. If it's greater than the answer, we're gonna tell them to guess lower. And when it equals the answer, it's gonna say correct and then stop the code. And the way we're gonna do that is, remember, the variable answer is the computer generated random number, and guess is what the user is going to be inputting. So now for this, we need if statements. So if the user's guess is less than the answer, okay, we're going to tell them guess higher. And now here comes like the part where we do need an else if statement, because there's like an in-between step. It can't just be lower, because then if the user's guess is greater than the answer, it's going to say it's correct, right? So there's also like this 3-step process. It's higher, it's lower, or it's equal. So now we're going to do else if guess is greater than the answer, then it's going to print guess lower. And now we need one last one, which is if the user's guess is correct. So you could use an else statement, or you can use an else if statement in this case, because there are no other possibilities. If the guess is lower than the answer and the guess is greater, or sorry, if the guess isn't lower than the answer and the guess isn't higher than the answer, all it can be is equal. But in this case, I'm going to use an else if statement because you can end with an else if statement. You don't need to end with else. I'm just going to do this to better visualize the code, where it's easier. Again, if someone else is reading your code, they should easily be able to tell what's going on where. So this line right here, guess is equal to answer, it makes it super clear that this will occur if the guess is correct. Is correct. Okay, perfect. And I did misspell that. Okay. All right, so now this, let's just see what it runs like. So without any while loop, it says, welcome to the guess game, please give us a number. So if I say 5, guess higher, but then the code just stops. I can't guess again, right? So that's sort of broken. It's like it should be able to have multiple guesses and say higher or lower accordingly. So that's why we need a while loop. If statement's just going to be a one-time thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to ask you something, you answer, whether it's right or wrong, it's just going to end the code. So a while loop is going to continue looping until you tell it to stop. So that's why we need a while loop right here. So while run is equal to true, and I'm just going to have that end here, and just F. And while. So again, just notice that I commented out end while, just so it's easy for someone else to read. And if you guys saw, the code just really quickly shifted. So NetBeans has this cool trick where it auto formats the code for you, so it's all like neat and organized. So if you guys are on Windows, I'm not sure how it really works for like MacBooks, but you want to do Alt Shift F, and it's going to just automatically fix the code for you in terms of organization. Okay. So now just quickly think, do you guys think this code is going to work perfectly like we want it to? Where if the user guesses it correct, it's over, or else it just keeps on looping within the while loop. So we're just going to again quickly test the code. So please give us a number. I'll guess 4. Correct. But I was right, but it's still running the code. So if I guess 5, it says guess lower, 3 higher, and 4 is the correct answer. But it's just going to keep on going and never end. And there's no point in that. So what we would want is for the code to end when the person guesses it correctly. So while runs if run is equal to true. So what we want to do is if guess is equal to answer, we want run to equal false. So this, if it equals false, then the while statement no longer holds up and it should stop running. And this should work. And one thing I'm just going to quickly fix is instead of print ln, I'm just going to do print just so you guys can also see like what it looks like having it on the same line. Oh, whoops, sorry, wrong one. Guess 2, run file. All right, so guess a number. So as you can see, it's on the same line this time. I just think it looks better in this situation. So I'll guess 1. Guess higher, so it's asking me to guess again. 3. Guess higher, 8. Guess higher, so 9. Guess higher, 10. Correct. All right, so there we go. So 10 was the highest answer, and once we got it correct, the build was successful and it ended the code. So we'll just run this one more time. 3, guess higher, 6, guess lower, 5, correct. All right, so this is exactly how we want it. So if the person doesn't guess correctly, it prompts them to guess higher or guess lower. And once they get the correct answer, it just prints correct and it ends the code. So this is our example. This is exactly how we wanted it. So if any of you guys have been following along or just want to quickly take a picture of this, obviously feel welcome. I can just pull this one up too, but I feel like you guys could probably do this by yourselves. So this is basically the end of our presentation, but before I go to like the thank you slide, I just wanted to say one challenge I have for you guys if you guys want to code this. This was our base assignment for one of our computer science classes actually. And one of the challenge portions was at the end, when the person guesses correctly, before ending the loop, also let the user know how many guesses it took them. So I'm not going to do this right now. I want this to be sort of like an extra challenge if any of you guys want to try it, but just think about how this would be done. So you'd probably need an int statement where it's like int guesses or like number of guesses. And then you should have that equal to something. And then every time they guess lower or higher, you would want to increase that value by 1. At the end, print what the value is. So just try that on your own time if any of you are curious. And again, just you don't really need this line. I just had it so in case you guys want to implement, like maybe they have to type the word in, like they have to physically write O-N-E instead of just 1. You guys can do that as well. And yeah, I think that is all. So just one last thing. So thank you guys for showing up to this workshop, and we will let you guys know if we have like a part 2, which is probably going to get into arrays and different methods, which is a lot more complex than what we did. But just if you guys notice the link at the very bottom here, This is sort of documentation for all of Java with all of the syntax needed. So this is a huge document and it has stuff I don't know how to do, obviously. There's a lot of stuff, but if any of you guys are interested, the link is here. Again, you can just take a quick photo or maybe we could like send that out to you guys somehow, but we can figure that out. And yeah, that basically concludes the workshop. Thank you guys.
All right, thanks for the workshop, Arsh.